Alright, today I'm taking a look at the 26th movie from Pixar, their first franchise flick in 3 years, and consequently their first theatrical release in 3 years, and their latest attempt to milk the Toy Story franchise. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Lightyear time. Or as he says in the movie, it's buzzin' time. That meme's not dead, never dies. It's the in-universe story of this movie that Andy saw that inspired him to want a Buzz Lightyear toy. So it's a movie in a fictional universe where toys are alive that sold a child a toy. So Lightyear boldly asks the question, at what point does a tie-in become so loosely tied in that it stops being a tie-in and kind of becomes its own thing? First and foremost is how gorgeous this movie looks. Pixar's animation has come light years since 1995, and Lightyear looks absolutely spectacular. I mean, completely photorealistic. There were some shots in here where I was like, is this an animated movie? This was done by a computer in like California? Like they made this with a computer. Like every time a new animated movie comes out, I'm like, wow, animation is really good nowadays. But especially with Lightyear, I mean, there are so many photorealistic backgrounds and textures and designs that I'm like, that slice of ham really looks like a slice of ham. Like the imprints it's leaving on tables and fingers. I mean, that's just insane. I also really love that clunky design to all of the ships and all the props and stuff. Purposely done by the director to give it that old kind of sci-fi movie feel. I also really liked Chris Evans as the title character, which I wasn't expecting because it's not, you know, Buzz Lightyear, but I did like him as Buzz Lightyear. Or maybe it's just nice set in this world where, like, depending on the team up, the character feels completely different. Like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness doesn't feel too much like Doctor Strange, but Lightyear, you're definitely watching a Buzz Lightyear movie. This is Buzz Lightyear. That feels like Buzz Lightyear, even if he doesn't sound completely like the Buzz Lightyear you know. So yes, Toy Story 4 is still the lame duck in the well-ridden Buzz contest. I also really like Socks, which was really surprising because based off of the trailers, I thought I would absolutely hate this little robotic cat. But he ended up being like the MVP of the movie. Like he was just consistently funny, which is something the movie wasn't, but I really did like Socks. Like if I saw this movie in 1995 or whenever and I walked out, I'd be like, I want the robot cat. That's the toy I want, not Lightyear. I want the cat. I also really enjoyed the laser shield guy. The passion he has for laser shields was just exhilarating. But after that, my list of compliments does begin to grow thin, and I start to get more negative, namely the sheer amount of fetch quests that you see in the movie. The movie has a fairly simple hook, but eventually there are so many plot digressions that it just grabs it and it drags it down. And each one of those plot obstacles has like a little mini obstacle within it, and then they just begin to bog up and just take so long to do anything. Like, considering the movie's only an hour and a half long, once Buzz meets Izzy Hawthorne and her gang, like, it just goes right down on the pacing spectrum. And then it only picks up once Zurg is unmasked. Speaking of Zurg, this movie breaks Toy Story lore in like a major way. Well, that's not really true, considering how loosely connected this is to Toy Story. Especially considering that ridiculously stupid text. It was like, in 1995, a boy named Andy saw a movie that inspired him to get a toy. This was that movie, which is just really dumb and probably should have been saved for the trailers, but anyway. The connection to Toy Story is loose in general, but in this movie, Buzz unmasks Zurg, and it turns out that he is an older version of Buzz. Remember the Lego Movie 2? Yeah, it's the thing from Lego Movie 2 where Rex is Emmett. Zurg is Buzz, which completely broke that Toy Story 2 bit where Zurg says, I am your father. I mean, that is canonical Toy Story lore, man. You can't do that to the Toy Story lore. I doubt I would care if it didn't have that stupid text in the beginning and it didn't even try to be the movie Andy saw in 1995, but because it does, I do have to point that out. Zurg being Buzz makes no sense. I also thought some of the movie was like pretty cliche, like that ragtag group of screw-ups. It's been done a million times in kids' movies, and Lightyear doesn't put a fresh enough spin on it to make it interesting. And for the most part, that was my feeling about the movie. It wasn't enough. There's this emotional core in the movie. There's a beating heart in there, but it never really expands upon it in a way that makes that beating heart just come alive. That metaphor doesn't make sense. A beating heart is alive. Never mind, I take back that. There's a message in the movie about like not wasting time and making the most out of what you have and not living in the past, and that stuff is all fantastic, but it never hits those points hard enough to the point where you're like, oh wait, this is actually like really deep. It's there in passing. It's just moving and it's moving, and eventually you'll be like, yeah, I guess I can pick the meaning out of it, but the movie's not gonna like really try to show you the meaning of the story. Some movies you watch and you're like, wow, the themes in this movie, I wasn't expecting that. And Lightyear, it has moments where it could have been like that, but then it's not. It's just not enough. There is one really touching scene though in the movie's like the end of the first act, and it did kind of almost have me in tears. I was like, ooh, that's some good. Is this gonna be a non-generic kids movie? But then right after that it goes, there's not much of that Pixar wit or charm or emotion on display after the first act. Once Buzz meets his best friend's granddaughter, then the rest of the movie, it's just kind of a slog. If it was just Lightyear on his own trying to make his way back to the past, then that would be actually pretty awesome. But because he has to team up with this group of ragtags, it bogs the movie down. The movie is also not that funny. Like the greatest hits of the 90s, like Jurassic Park or Independence Day, there was always an element of brazen humor to them, and Lightyear just doesn't have that. Instead of having an ensemble that's like brimming with chemistry and they're all bouncing off of one another, all of the movie's humor is placed on socks. The most fun the movie has is with Lightyear and Felicia Hawthorne in the movie's first act. Also digression, while the gay representation was wonderfully well done, the fact that that character requires a granddaughter did lead to a very interesting in-theater conversation about artificial insemination, which I really don't think was the intention with that, but it is what it is. Overall, Lightyear was just fine. It could have been Pixar's Interstellar or their chance to turn a shameless IP cash grab like the Lego Movie into a legitimately fantastic movie, but nah, it's just by the numbers. It's a movie I saw, came and went. I mean, I guess maybe I'll watch it one day, maybe, if I have kids and they want to see it for some reason, and I'll be like, yeah, we could watch Toy Story 2, but they'll be like, no, we don't want to see this one. And I'll be like, fine, but I'll be in another room. The movie settles on a perfectly fine, by-the-numbers adventure that's more chunky than slick. Overall, I give Lightyear a 5 out of 10. Gorgeously animated but lacking bite, Lightyear is an enjoyable but unremarkable adventure. You know what I wish? I wish it had more of this image's vibe. Like this in the trailers, this is the image that sold me on the movie. I was like, ooh, this is hitting me in the feels. What is this? And that is from the first act. So, first act, dope. Next two acts, kind of a waste of time.